3 acts of r/malicious compliance today, a genius payback for bullies, an IT shutdown, and oversharing in the office. Let's get into it.
Do all the work yourself or get 0%. In high school, I was in a science class that I did very well in. I was top of the class and scored nearly 100% on every test and assignment. The teacher assigned a big group project that would take about a week to complete with a team of 4 students. Groups were randomly assigned, and unfortunately, I was paired up with 3 kids who were barely passing the class. In class, we were given time to make plans together as a group to divide up work, examine the instructions, schedule times outside of school to meet up, etc. It was at this point my teammates decided to tell me that they weren't going to do any work on the project. I asked why, and they said they knew I really cared about my grade, so they figured I would do it on my own. They were so lazy they were banking on the fact I wouldn't tank my own grade, so they could benefit off of my hard work when I inevitably got a good score on the project. I was upset and said that was unfair. They dug in and said, "Too bad. Now you either do this project yourself or you'll get a 0%. Cue malicious compliance." Now, I could have gone to the teacher, and he probably would have sorted this out, but a better idea struck me. So I said, "Fine, you win. I'll do what you say." They smiled smugly and thought that was that. But you see, this teacher had a policy that at the end of the semester, your lowest grade, excluding finals, would be taken off your record. So, if you forgot to turn in an assignment or did really badly on one test, you got a mulligan, so it wouldn't ruin your final grade. I had never done poorly on an assignment all year, so I never needed my mulligan. However, I knew that these guys all did. If they got a big fat 0 on a crucial assignment, they would probably fail the class. So I did exactly as they instructed. I did no work on the project all week, just sat on it and bided my time. At the beginning of the next week, all the students turned in their assignments. My team watched as I sat in my chair, unmoving. Finally, one said, "Classmate, aren't you going to turn in the project?" Me. "Oh, I didn't do the project." They were shocked and asked why I didn't do it. I said, "You said do all the work or get a 0%. I choose 0%. They were all royally upset. They had to do credit recovery over the summer. They hated my guts, but I couldn't have cared less. It was the most satisfying failing grade in my entire life.
I have to admit, that was chef's kiss levels of petty brilliance. These guys thought they could bully OP into carrying them, but instead, they signed their own summer vacation death sentence. Imagine thinking you're being clever, only to end up in credit recovery, while OP just shrugs and moves on with his life. Honestly, sometimes the most satisfying win isn't an A+. It's watching freeloaders crash and burn by their own logic. Now, shifting gears from lazy classmates to workplace chaos, up next, we've got a corporate Karen who thought it was smart to shut down the company's server in the middle of the day.
You want the server down during business hours? You got it. I used to work IT at a mid-sized logistics company. Our warehouse ran 24/7, but the corporate office was open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was responsible for maintaining the internal server that handled everything from payroll to inventory management to shipping labels. One Monday morning, I got an email from a higher-up, let's call her Karen, demanding that we take the server offline immediately for scheduled maintenance. Now, I had scheduled that maintenance for Sunday evening, sent out 3 notices, and got no objections. But Karen hadn't read those emails and was now insisting we do it right now during her working hours. I replied, taking the server offline during business hours will temporarily halt access to the shipping system, inventory, time tracking, and payroll processing. Confirmed you'd like me to proceed? She replied, and I quote, "Yes, you should be working on my schedule. Get it done now. All right, malicious compliance time." I looped in the warehouse manager and let him know the system would be down per Karen's urgent request. Then I pulled the plug at exactly 10:30 a.m. Within 15 minutes, the office was in chaos. No one could clock in or out, print labels, track shipments, or even check inventory levels. Phones were ringing off the hook. The CFO stormed into my office asking what was going on. I just showed him the email thread. Less than 30 minutes later, Karen came to my office, red-faced and yelling. I calmly pointed out that she had approved the server downtime in writing despite warnings. I offered to restore access early, but reminded her it would take time to reboot and check for errors from the forced shutdown. Fallout? Oh yes, she got dragged into a meeting with the COO and CTO that afternoon. From what I heard, it didn't go well for her. After that, all urgent IT requests from management had to go through a change management process with multiple approvals. I also got a little bonus on my next paycheck for handling the outage with professionalism. Sometimes, the best way to teach someone why we have procedures is to let them break one. Once.
Oh, that's beautiful. Nothing humbles a workplace Karen faster than watching her own demand blow up the entire system. OP just pulled the plug and let chaos roll in like a tidal wave. And honestly, showing the CFO that email thread, that's the corporate version of dropping the mic. What really makes me laugh is that Karen thought she was flexing her authority, and instead she fast-tracked her own public roast session with the COO and CTO. Actions meet consequences, and OP even walked away with a bonus. That's what I call a win-win. Now, if you think that was funny, just wait for the next one. It's about a supervisor who demanded specific reasons every time someone stepped away from their desk. Let's just say, the team delivered some very graphic honesty.
Supervisor said, don't just type BRB. So I told the whole team I had to poop. So this recently happened in my call center type job. My brand new supervisor, promoted for all the wrong reasons, wasn't exactly qualified. I could write a whole post on that, but the gist is she only got promoted because she was friends with the boss and is always giving him advice on the women he dates. Anyway, we had a Teams chat where we kept each other updated and asked for help with things. Normal procedure was simple. If you stepped away, we would typically just type BRB, so everyone knew you weren't available for calls. Did this for years with no issues. Well, the new supervisor decides that's not good enough. She needs to assert control and dominance. She announced to us in one-on-one convos that we all had to start giving specific reasons for why we were stepping away. I told her I wasn't really comfortable announcing to the entire team every time I had to use the bathroom. She basically shrugged and said, "It's the rule. We need transparency so I know what everyone's doing." Okay, we've had no issues for years, but whatever she says goes, I guess. The very next time nature called, instead of a boring BRB, I typed BRB, going to go poop in the bathroom. Immediately, she PM'd me in Teams saying that was not professional. I reminded her she told us to be specific and I was just following directions. After that, others started joining in. Some favorites were BRB, going to stand in front of the urinal and do an impression of a water fountain. BRB, going to blow my nose to try to dislodge this giant booger. Within a week, the supervisor started telling us we didn't need to be so specific when stepping away from our desks. Like, yeah, we know.
Now that is comedy gold. You've got a brand new supervisor, desperate to prove she's in charge, and instead of earning respect, she basically set herself up to be clowned by the entire team. Like, imagine logging into chat and reading play-by-play bathroom updates. That's peak management failure right there. What I love is how quickly it spiraled. OP drops one bathroom line, and suddenly the whole crew is joining in with their own gross little masterpieces. Honestly, nothing bonds coworkers faster than turning a dumb rule into a running joke. So here's my question for you. If your boss demanded you explain every single time you stepped away from your desk, what would you type in the chat? Drop your best one in the comments. I need to see how creative you'd get. And that wraps up today's perfectly legal chaos on r/MaliciousCompliance. If those cold, calculated comebacks hit the spot, give that thumbs up button a lil love. Got opinions? I know you do. Drop them in the comments. I read everything, even the spicy ones. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another snarky saga. I'll see you in the next one. It's gonna be wild. Bye!